Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be chatting about how to turn email subscribers into donors using a welcome series. My name is Maria Rio, and I'm an expert fundraiser with over a decade of experience. And I'm also on a mission to make sure that EDs get the funding that they need without the stress. So let's jump into today. So let's talk about the things you need to know about today's content. A welcome series is a bunch of emails that someone has sent once they have given you their email address. Hopefully, it creates excitement about the organization and introduces your work to that person. A well made welcome series will build trust, will introduce the donor to the organization, will let them know a little bit more about your work, and will bring them in closer and closer until they make that first gift. So, this is that subscriber to donor journey that we're chatting about today. Something that's really cool about a welcome series is that it can be 100% automated, which I know you love because I love it too. It is also your 24/7 fundraiser, which means that people can get stewarded as soon as they give you their email. If you're watching this video, you might be wondering, what is the real purpose of a welcome series? How many emails should I send? How often? What should be in those emails? What are some common mistakes to avoid? And how can you personalize and segment even at this really early stage of the donor relationship? So let's talk about six key principles. First one is don't say too much, keep it natural. Second, make subscribers feel seen. You should be able to reflect their values back to them, so not sold to. Three, use a tone and content that mirrors your overall organizational voice. So you don't want them to show up to your inbox and then it's a completely different story from what they're seeing on your website. Your welcome series should never just be one email that says, thank you for subscribing automatically. It should include a series of emails that deepens engagement. However, that doesn't mean that automation is automatically out the door. Actually, automation is a huge part of making this a really successful initiative. So, automation doesn't necessarily mean impersonal. We really want it to be very personal. And my last principle is segmentation. So, if you're not segmenting, you're missing out on a lot of information that you could be getting. Think of a welcome series like a first date. You want to share a little bit to build interest and intrigue, but not too much where the person's completely thrown off. And you want to listen as much as you share. So if you're just talking at a donor, that's not going to be a really great way to build a relationship. But if you're inviting them to engage and inviting them to share a little bit more with your organization, that might create better results for you. I would say there's 6 main reasons why you need a welcome series. So, first one is creating a really good first impression. So, warmly welcoming the donor and saying, we're so happy that you're here because you're one of us, you're part of our community. Another part would be storytelling. So, really using this opportunity to deepen their understanding of your organization, of the support that you gave one specific person, or of what your broader community thinks about you because they're joining your community. They want to hear the reviews, right? Segmentation is really, really important. So knowing if this person is a service user versus a donor will help you personalize and segment later on. And trying to get that information through a welcome series is a really good idea. A welcome series also helps you deliver immediate value to the person who signed up. So if they signed up through a downloadable or a webinar or because of some piece of content, you're delivering on that content right away. And if not, you're still giving them that opportunity to look behind the curtain of your organization. A welcome series also gives you the opportunity to provide a call to action to this person that's receiving it. So whether that's, hey, have you checked out volunteering? Have you thought about following us on social media? Have you considered becoming a monthly donor? You're providing them that opportunity and that direct ask. And then another reason is it reduces the amount of people who drop off your email list. So if someone doesn't get an email, they might not even realize if they're signed up or not, right? And you'll start building that memory in that person. Hey, I know this organization. I like what they do. So it makes your job easier and easier once you are going in with an ask, which we definitely will be with a welcome series. Something that a lot of people wonder is how many emails should be part of a welcome series? If one is not enough, then how many, right? And I think the ideal number is 3 to 5 because you want to give enough information to draw people in, but not too much where they're overwhelmed and they just want to unsubscribe. When it comes to when you send these emails, you want to think about this pacing. So this will work with a lot of different audience types, whether your volunteers are getting a welcome series, your financial donors, or your community partners. Setting it up in this way will be really, really helpful. So the first email is sent out immediately after you get someone's email address, right? It sets the tone that, hey, we see you, you're part of our community. And it also takes off a few cognitive biases if you word it correctly. So you're in, like you've accomplished this, you're here. And I think that that is a really nice way to welcome someone. The second email you'll send on day 3, and this is where you actually start to tell someone's story. So tell them the organizational story, who you are, what you do, why you exist, who your people are, what is your impact, right? And something that you can do is actually use a specific person's story, an individual story to really drive this point home. So either that's your board member or volunteer or your community participant. Using a story that shows that impact will really build that emotional connection right off the bat. For your story, you want to make sure that these 4 parts are included. So, one problem, one solution, your results, and your long term impact. So, what is one problem that this person was facing? How did your organization provide a solution to that problem? What was the short term results of it? And then the long term impacts. How is this making a broader societal change? Email 3, this is where you start to introduce an opportunity to engage. So whether that's filling out a survey or following you on social media or replying to the email, give them something to do. You'll send this to them on day 10th, and it's your chance to really get them to take an action. 15 days in, you'll send your 4th email, and this will share some social proof. So show them that they're not alone in the process. So if they're a volunteer, maybe they're getting an email from someone who's been volunteering for 2 years and it's their personal story, right? If they're a service user, maybe they're hearing from another service user saying, hey, it's not that scary. I felt very welcomed, and here's how you can make the most out of it. So, just like an additional kind of community building that you want to do very early into the process and really emphasize any shared values that you might have with the person who's receiving the email. Day 20th, you're sending your 5th email. And for this one, you really want to do an ask for support. So whether that's volunteering or financial support, you want to make your ask very clear here. So if you haven't already, invite them to take a bigger action. So attend an event, become a monthly donor, or meet for coffee, right? Something that you want to do with your first ask is also A B test. So, a lot of email management services will actually help you automatically do this. So, option A and option B. And MailChimp, for example, will send 50% of your audience to option A and the other 50 to option B, right? So, what's an option A and what's an option B? That's completely up to you and what you're testing. But some things that you might consider testing is how many asks you're making in each email. So maybe one has the donate button 4 different times and one has the donate button and links 6 different times, right? Maybe one has pictures and one doesn't. Maybe one is told from the perspective of a participant and the other from the perspective of the ED. So there's a lot of things that you can test to see what resonates most with the people who are attracted to your organization and are signing up to receive emails. Overall, that's broad strokes of it, but if you wanna get really nitty-gritty about the content, I would say that these are the things that you must include. So the content will vary depending on the audience, but you must include a story for sure. In one of the emails, there must be a story of an individual person. So that could be a staff person, volunteer, board member, or participant. And again, problem, solution, result, and impact. Another must include is a call to action. So we want people to get used to getting asked while they're being warmed up in this welcome series. So whether that's follow us on social media, watch this video, whatever it is, make sure there's a call to action throughout your welcome series. Another must is to clearly articulate the organization's unique value proposition. So it's a very easy thing to do. I'll give you a quick framework right here. So we believe blank. So whatever your mission is, that's why we blank, whatever your impact is, through blank, whatever your programming is. So an example that I'll give you right now is we believe everyone should have food. That's why we feed families through our food bank, right? So starting with a we believe is a callback to Simon Sinek's golden circle. Always start with a why. Now, what does this look like in actuality? So let's look at a quick example of a donor journey that I've done in the past. So I wrote this one 2 years ago for a community services association in Scarborough, and we're just going to go through that now. Great. So for this email welcome series that I wrote, you can see email one, welcome to the AXA family. Here's the subject, here's who it's from. So, hey, thanks so much for joining our community. We're excited to have you here. Stay tuned for updates with gratitude, right? Very simple. Email two, a story. So, this is a story told from the service user's perspective in quotation. So, email two, telling a story. So, the story in this email journey is actually told from the ED about a participant, and we're using quotes from that participant's story. There is no ask, but it just builds that warmth in the donor. Email three, we're telling the story of the community. Hey, there's poverty in our community. This is what it looks like. And here are the stats behind the stories, right? This is only a fraction of the impact that we have across our sites, and we want you to know about it. Email four, we're asking them to become a monthly donor. Email five is another story, and we have six as our first ask. So, email six, we had option A and option B. Option A is about one program told from the perspective of the ED, and option B is about a separate program told from the perspective of the person who used the services. So, that example is great, but it could be better, and I'll give you some tips on how to improve it. Tips for success: don't cram too much, let each message breathe. So, don't go day 1, day 3, day 5, day 8, right? You want it to be a little bit more spaced out than that, maybe 5 to 7 days in between each email. Think about where you got the person's email, and that will actually help you personalize the journey even further. So if you got it at an event, right? You say, thanks so much for coming to the event in your first email. If you got it from a downloadable, make sure that they get their downloadable and they're able to use it. Maybe even reference it in the second and third email. Another tip is use analytics to test and refine your sequence. So, really look at the email series once you've had maybe 500 to 800 people go through and see what are the improvements that you can make. And we'll talk a little bit about that with the example that I just gave you now that it's been a year after first setting that up. Another tip is to add a choose your own adventure path early on that gives you information on the type of people that are signing up for your email list. So if you say, have you accessed the program? Click here if yes, click here if no. It lets you get that information and it lets people self select where they fit in. Another great tip is to use subjectline.com to test every single one of your opens. Subjectline.com has analyzed, I think, 15,000 email subject lines, and they tell you what are the things that work really well to get that email open. Because even if you write an amazing story, if it doesn't get open, it's not worth much, right? So, subjectline.com will actually rank based on where you're standing and what would get open and give you improvements, and it's free. So, another reason to love it. There's a lot of mistakes that you can make in this process. So the top 4 mistakes to avoid are 1, don't set it and forget it, right? You really wanna make sure that you're looking at the data a year in, maybe 6 months in, and make changes to improve the experience for people who are giving you their email address, right? So to do that, we'll actually look at the updated version of that donor journey I just shared with you and make changes based on the analytics. But before we do that, I just want to say that if you're struggling with creating your own welcome series or engaging donors, getting dollars, there's a link in the description that you can check out. No pressure. It just tells you how my company helps solve this problem for organizations. But what matters to me is that you get the most value out of this video and you're able to create your own welcome series, right? So let's jump into the revamped one for this organization. Okay, so jumping back into the first email, you can see that version one had an 86.5% open rate, which is huge. It's great, right? So we didn't actually tweak very much, but we did add a call to action. So the call to action now is, hey, check us out on social media, right? For our second email, it had a 63% open rate. So it was okay. It was great, but we really want to tweak it and add a call to action. So that's what we did here. email 3 was not an evergreen email, so it needs to be updated every year, and it had a 67.3% open rate. So we updated the stats and we added a call to action. Let's move on to email 6. That's where we had our actual asks, right? So you can see that version 1 had a 55.1% open rate and a 0.72 click through rate. Not great, not something that you want to see. So when you have something like this, you can change the subject line to make sure that you're getting people in to that email and that story, and then make changes to the actual email, right? So I want to increase that click through rate. I need to update the copy. I want to increase that open rate. I need to update the subject line. Now that you've seen the updated version of that donor journey, I'm sure you're wondering what mistake 2 is. And don't worry, I'm delivering here. Mistake 2 is not understanding the metrics. So, this is a system that you're building, and the data doesn't lie. If you aren't getting clicks on your call to action, maybe you need to work on your copy or you need to work on the design of the email or the functionality, right? That's the thing that fixes clicks. If you're looking at the open rate and you have a very low open rate, then you know that you have to work on the subject line. So now we know how to fix the body of the email, we know how to fix the subject line. But what if you're not getting people signing up to your email list, right? So now that's another opportunity to check out your tech and to create a campaign around lead generation. Our third and fourth mistakes for your welcome series is not connecting your tech. That's mistake number 3. So make sure that there's a two-way connection between your CRM and your EMS. So wherever your donor data lives needs to talk to wherever your emails live. They need to be in communication because if someone unsubscribes from your email list, you want them to also be unsubscribed to emails in your CRM, right? You want to have that communication preference noted somewhere else. Same thing if someone makes a gift and they're not added to your welcome series, that first time donor might miss out on getting to build that deeper relationship with the organization. So, really make sure that your text speaks to each other. And this will really help tighten up that communication and segmentation. My fourth mistake is not understanding your audience. So, don't start writing your welcome series if you don't know who your donors are because you don't know who you're writing for. You're not writing for a general audience. You're writing for people who care about your issues. So write in that way. Speak their language, make sure that they feel seen, and make sure that you reflect your values and their values back to them, right? So that's it for today's video. I hope that you got a lot out of it and that you're going to be setting up your own welcome series to turn your email supporters into donors. As I said, if you need help with this, check out that link in the description to see how my company can support you. If you need it, it's always there. What matters most to me is that you and your organization get value from this video and are able to implement these practical fundraising tips. That being said, take care of yourself. Our sector's people are so burnt out half the time, so really take care of yourself. And I'll see you again for another video. That's it for today. Bye for now.